Hi guys, good morning. I am your Subhash GS. I hope you appreciated the last video. From today onwards, I am going to explain the banking terms and banking concepts which will be asked in the mains examination as well as in the interview of IBPS exams. So let us begin the session. The history of banking in India. It can be classified into four stages. First, ancient India, second, medieval India, third, colonial India, and the fourth, modern India or India after independence. First, the ancient India. In ancient India, Vedas, Sutras, and Jatakas, they use the term usury and they contain the usury. Usury can be correlated with the present day concept of the interest which will be uh, used in the banking sector. But Manusmriti accepted this usury considering as it is if the usury or interest is equal to all sections of society, so no objection will be there for usury. But Kautilya he used another word that is loan deed in his books, and during Mauryan Empire Adesha was in use. Loan deed and Adesha they can be correlated with the present day concept of the mortgages for getting the money. In medieval India, the use of loan deed word is continued, and during Mughal Empire they were called as Dastavez. There were two types of Dastavez, Dastavez-e-Milani and Dastavez-e-Ibn Alam. Dastavez-e-Milani means if money was given to the borrower has to given the money back to the lender in a stipulated amount of time. In Ibn now, he has to give the money on demand by the lenders. Use of payment orders and hundis also started during this period. The hundis concept is led to the present day concept of check. In the colonial India, the story of banking starts from the establishment of the Bank of Hindustan in 1770 at Kolkata. It is the first bank started in India under the European management. The Alexander and Company, the agency house, started this Bank of Hindustan, and it can be considered as the first modern bank under the colonial India. Now it's a defunct bank and it was liquidated in 1832 under the conflict of interest. The evolution of banking in India can be studied under from the colonial Bank of India up to the present day in three phases. First, the preliminary phase from 1772, nationalization of banks in 1969. Second phase from nationalization up to liberalization and banking reforms in 1991. From liberalization onwards. First phase. In 1786, the General Bank of India established in Calcutta after the Bank of Hindustan, and the present name for Calcutta is Kolkata as we know. Since it was the main trading center for British India and it became the main center. Britishers they made three Charters Act. Under these three Charters Act, they established three banks. The three presidency banks, they were Bank of Calcutta, Bank of Bombay and Bank of Madras. In 1806, the Bank of Calcutta renamed as the Bank of Bengal. In the year 1921, the then Governor General of British, he felt that these three banks should be merged together and make it as Imperial Bank of India in order to extend their reach to the India, to whole of India. Later, when India got independence, it is renamed as the State Bank of India in the year 1955. So, the State Bank of India is the first public sector or government-owned bank for independent India. The Reserve Bank of India, it is a central bank and supreme monetary authority. It is established in the year 1935 under the RBI Act 1934. In 1960, the State Bank of India have given the control of 8 state-owned banks. Till recently, they were called as associated banks, and in the year 2017, they merged together. In 1969, the 14 major private banks nationalized, followed by the nationalization in 1980, where 6 major private banks nationalized. Among the nationalization of the banks, the biggest one is the Bank of India. The Indian banking sector, it can be broadly classified as the scheduled banks as well as non-scheduled banks. Scheduled banks are those banks which are mentioned in the second schedule of RBI Act 1934. The scheduled banks, there are 5 types. They are foreign banks, regional rural banks, State Bank of India and associated banks, nationalized banks, and private sector banks, among which State Bank of India is the biggest bank, followed by Punjab National Bank and Bank of India. Let us begin with the post-independent era. India after the independence, the from RBI Act 1934, they make RBI as a central banking authority, and it is nationalized in 1949 under RBI Act 1948, that is transferred to public ownership. In 1949, the Banking Regulation Act was enacted, and which empowers the RBI to regulate, control and inspect the banks in India. And Banking Regulation Act not only controls the RBI, and it also controls all the principles and the rules which is made by the government after independence. According to this, no new banks can be opened without the permission of RBI, and no two banks will have a common director. So let us know the few important events occurs after independence in the banking sector. First, the nationalization. Even though the provisions, control and regulation was by RBI, the banks in India except the State Bank of India remain owned and operated by the private persons. So Indira Gandhi, then Prime Minister of India, in a paper entitled Stray Thoughts on Bank Nationalization in All India Congress meeting, expressed her thoughts on undertaking of private sector banks by the government. The Banking Companies Ordinance 1969, that is Acquisition and Transfer of Undertakings, had been issued by the Government of India in the midnight of 19th July 1969 and nationalized 14 largest commercial banks. Jayaprakash Narayan, a national leader of India, described this step as a masterstroke of political sagacity. Sagacity means intelligence. Ordinance got its approval from President of India on 9th August 1969. In 1980, 6 more banks nationalized, and in 1993, the government merged the new Bank of India with the Punjab National Bank. Hence, the number of nationalized banks after independence reduced to 19. And we may have a doubt on why nationalization, why the Indira Gandhi took a decision to make the banks nationalized. There are 4 points I can quote for this. They are monopoly check, financial accessibility, financial awareness, improved regulation. First, monopoly check. Earlier, before nationalization, the banks in India is controlled by the private houses, and they own majority of the money in the public economy. So it was the government is governed by the private houses which are owning the banks. So government felt that we have to decentralize this check over the economy, and so they felt to take a control over this banking sector. Financial accessibility. The private persons who are owning the bank, they were given money only to the business persons and all. So government felt it the financial accessibility should be given to the persons who are in need. The concept of banking is one has to given the money to the persons who are in need. So they felt it has to be reached to the rural sectors as well as agricultural background people. So this is one of the reason. So financial awareness by involving all the fellows into the banking sector, they will come to know how to save the money and what is the significance of saving the money. So this is also one of the objective of this. Then improved regulation. Though the private sector banks they were doing well, but if the government is there so that they can given money to the priority sectors as well, like agriculture, small farmers, small and marginal industries, etc., so that the concept of democracy can be upheld. So second event, that is liberalization of 1993. The liberalization which leads to licensing of small number of private banks which were called as new generation tech savvy banks. This move helps in rapid growth of banking sector. Because of foreign direct investment, foreign investors may be given voting up to 74% from the present cap of 10%. New policy of this new generation tech savvy banks, foreign direct investment, etc. shook the banking sector in India, because this gives modern outlook with a tech savvy method for the traditional banks who are following 464 method of functioning. 464, which means 4% borrowing, 6% lending, and 4 p.m. they will go to home. This was a concept, this was a method which was adopted by the traditional banks, and when the foreign investors started investing, they expect some more from as a return for their investment. So they give a modern outlook for the banking sector, and the workaholic of the bank changed. So and now we can get the fruitfulness of these policies. All these led to the retail boom in India. And let us know about the present scenario. The Indian banking sectors, which are considered as to have a clean, strong, and transparent balance sheets relative to other banks which are present in its region and with the comparable economies. So they are considered as the transparent balance sheets banks and with a clean and strong balance sheets they are having. This is because the Reserve Bank of India is an autonomous body and with minimal pressure from the government. Along with this, Narendra Modi in 2014 he he launched a scheme called Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. It's a financial inclusion scheme run by the Ministry of Finance, which leads to the opening of 16.92 crore accounts with 20,338.37 crore rupees deposited under the scheme. This also gives boost for the banking sectors as well as the original idea of nationalization has come to existence. Along with this, the payment banks is a new concept developed by the Reserve Bank of India. These banks can accept the restricted deposits of up to 1 lakh rupees, like the Airtel Payment Bank is there. It's an example for that. The Banking Codes and Standard Boards of India, it's an autonomous body. It is established after the independence, and this monitors the banks in India. Along with this, the Banking Ombudsman is there. It will look after the customers' problems. Those customers which are having a conflict with the banks, they can directly approach the Banking Ombudsman and gets a solution for them. Then what about the technologies, adoption of banking technology? The IT revolution had a great impact on Indian banking industry. RBI set up a number of committees to define and coordinate the banking technology. In 1984, the Committee on Mechanization in the Banking Industry. In 1988, Committee on Computerization in the Banking Sector. In 1994, Committee on Technology Issues relating to payment systems, check clearing and security settlement in the banking industry. In 1995, Committee for Proposing Legislation on Electronic Fund Transfer, that is EFT, and other electronic payments. These are all the committees recommended by the RBI for adoption of technologies in the banking sector. In July 2016, Rama Gandhi, the Deputy Governor of Central Bank of India, he urged the banks to develop the applications for digital currencies. Well, now it's a trend of bitcoins. So he recommended this approach for the banks to develop the applications for these digital currencies. And after knowing all these histories of banking, and we should know which is the region which contributes more for the banking sector. In India, the district called the Dakshina Kannada in Karnataka, it is called as the cradle of banking in India because it gives birth to 5 major banks in Indian economy. They are the Canara Bank, Syndicate Bank, Corporation Bank, Vijaya Bank, and Karnataka Bank, and they are the leading banks existed till date, and hence they are called. Hence this district is called as the cradle of banking in India. So I hope this video is useful to you for those who are preparing for the IBPS, and I thank you for listening this video. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe for more updates. Thank you.